Hello, we'd like to welcome you to the KBIS Next Stage. My name's Todd Getz. I'm the brand director for GE and GE Profile Appliances. We're very excited to sponsor this panel, The New Frontier, Technology Takes Its Place. At GE Profile, we're heavily invested in residential technology with our smart home appliances and how they integrate across the entire home. We're very excited to hear the insights, predictions, and trends from today's speakers. But before we get started, I'd like to invite you to visit our virtual booth to see our great line of connected products, like our ranges with in-oven cameras, our multi-door refrigerator, and our kitchen hub. And please take in our content in the Connected Living Pavilion during the show. Now, let's bring the panel. I'd like to introduce the moderator, Jason Knott. Jason is the Chief Content Officer for Emerald Expositions Connected Brands. He's a talented and respected editor in residential technology, and he's also the editor-in-chief of CE Pro magazine and their digital content. Jason, we can't thank you enough for steering this topic today. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Todd, for that great introduction, and I want to welcome everybody to today's KBIS Virtual 2021 panel, The New Frontier, Technology Takes Its Place. And I want to thank GE Profile for sponsoring today's panel, and we're looking forward to having a great discussion with the group. Before we get started, let me set the stage a little bit. I know most designers probably realize now that smart home is not a flash in the pan. This is here to stay. It is an important trend, and you're going to get asked about it more and more by your clientele. And it might seem daunting to many of you, but it is a big, big opportunity, and especially because this technology needs to blend into the home decor. So interestingly, a statistic I came across just today that I thought you might find fascinating is that this technology is across all demographics. In fact, a report I saw from Parks Associates showed that 40% of all seniors that's over the age of 65 now have smart speakers and smart TVs in their home, and even 30% of them have video teleconferencing systems in their home. So it's amazing how pervasive this has become. So two of the biggest trends, we could spend all day talking about all the various permutations of the technology, but two of the biggest trends are wellness and smart appliances. And we're really going to hone in on those today with the group. I've got a panel of key experts here with me, and we're going to really talk about how, give you some insights into the market, but then also give you some takeaways that we hope you can implement. And I recommend when you're watching this session or any other session, really try and hone in on 1, 2, or 3 things that you can implement in your business and really get going right away as a takeaway. So without further ado, let me introduce the panel with me. First off is Anthony Antolino. He's the Chief Commercial Officer and CMO at Delos. In his role at Delos, Tony leads all the global marketing and commercialization efforts for the company and has a responsibility for the global residential business. He has a distinguished business history, and he serves as a mentor to tech startups. Hey, Anthony, how you doing?
Good to be with you. How's everybody?
Thanks for joining me today. Also with me is Chris Brandon. Chris is president of Brandon Architects in Southern California. He's a registered California architect and a member of the AIA with a bachelor's degree from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where my dad went, so great school. And his approach to design has always been to better understand the client's dreams and unique project constraints in order to create more informed and inspired design. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to be here.
And last but not least with us is Daryl C. Williams, Ph.D. Daryl is a Senior Director of New Product Introduction and Technology Infrastructure at GE Appliances. In his role, Daryl ensures execution of GE Appliances' strategic investment in developing products and maintaining manufacturing excellence for the appliance business. Welcome, Daryl.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, quick housekeeping item before we get into the discussion. You'll note at the bottom of your screen, there is a chat function and a Q&A function. Please make sure that you put any questions into the Q&A function. We're going to be scanning those throughout the session. And then we're going to have some time at the end to ask your questions to the panel. I do recommend that you type in those questions as you think of them. Don't wait till the end. So as soon as they come to mind, please go ahead and plug those in. All right, let's get started. First and foremost, I want to tackle the subject of wellness. But before we do, I want to have Tony set the landscape a little bit about the wellness community, about what wellness is, and also tell us a little bit about Delos. So Tony, can you tell us, for people who may not be familiar with Delos, what exactly the company does and why it's important for the design community?
Absolutely. I think it's a great jump off and very timely given the kind of unfortunate and crazy world we've all been living in for the past year. So Delos has been merging the health science with the building science for the better part of, excuse me, of a decade. And we've been studying that with leading institutions like the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, and literally hundreds and hundreds of the world's leading experts across those disciplines. So you might think about architects and various experts across the medical community, designers, and PhDs across different subject matter, like the effects that lighting has on the human condition and things like sleep, the effects that the contaminants that may be in the air have on our respiratory function or cardiovascular outcomes. So it's really a very granular study of those two intersecting points. The company launched commercially in 2014. Many of you may be aware of the well-building standard that was founded and created out of the foundational research that Delos did over the first 5 years of its existence. That is today administered by the International Well-Building Institute. The well-building standard is now in over 80 countries, over 1.5 billion square feet of registered or certified square feet, which is an extraordinary testament to the importance and the adoption of focusing on healthy buildings and the impacts it has on people. We've also been very successful in prior years, starting in 2015 in the hospitality space. And then more recently in 2018, we launched our residential platform. And we think about a home as a mechanism or catalyst to helping people improve their health outcomes. We're going to live in our homes more than ever in the past year. We're living in our homes way more. We're using those spaces for many more things than just coming home at the end of the day. So we think about air and water and light and how we think about bringing all of those things together to inform and provide a healthier environment and outcome for occupants.
Can you tell us specifically about your Darwin platform?
Yeah, so Darwin really brings together the culmination of all of our research and science, and it's an important footnote here to reinforce that all of the solutions or products that Delos brings into market are informed by science and research. So there's a great visual on screen right now when you think about a home that has your health in mind. You think about sleep. Well, how important is sleep? How does sleep health outcomes, how do we improve our sleep? So there are environmental elements, the air we're breathing. What is the purity of the air? What is the contamination level in the air? If it's allergy season, are we breathing in the allergens and we're having a hard time getting to sleep? Or are we cleaning the air and providing a good sleep environment? What is the lighting environment that we're subjecting our bodies to, right? This has been carefully studied over a number of years, in that we know long-term exposure to blue light or even to just artificial light more broadly can have an effect on the melatonin production in our bodies, right? And that's necessary to go to sleep easily and get a restful night's sleep. The water that we're drinking. So Darwin is a wellness platform. It's a software system that we've created, informed by the same foundational research. And we're monitoring and remediating the pollutants and contaminants that are going on in the home. And we're passively resolving those issues in the background by having our software talk to third-party products across air, water, and lighting solutions. So the beauty here is that we're using data to inform changes to those environments so that we can bring forward the healthiest environment for the occupants of a home, regardless of type. It could be an apartment, it could be a standard production build, or it can be a super luxury 50,000 square foot home somewhere in the country, and anything in between. The price points are scalable from low end to ultra high end and everything in between. And it is scalable across the type and number of amenities that we can incorporate into a home to bring forward a healthy home environment.
So when we're talking about wellness, obviously there are issues related to larger windows. You mentioned sunlight and water quality, but where does wellness really mesh completely with technology solutions?
We have a saying. We say a home is not smart unless it's healthy, right? And so the beauty of technology and the rate of change of technology, the rate of change of sensor-based technology, we're able to monitor a lot of the indoor environment. We're able to know very precisely how much or what the level of particulate matter is in the space. Are they large particles? Are they small particles? What you're looking at here are the determinants of someone's health, right? Most of us might think that our genetic disposition makes up the majority of our health outcomes. That's actually not so. You'll see that about 70% of our health outcomes is determined by physical and social and environmental concerns. So it's the air we breathe, the water we drink, the proximity to people, the densification, right? The behavioral aspects of our surroundings. Those are things that we can actually control. And again, because technology continues to accelerate and sensor-based technology is so capable, Delos is able to use those data inputs, align them with the research that we've done over the years, and through algorithms talk to those third-party products that are part of our ecosystem to passively improve the environment of a home and thereby creating a healthier outcome for occupants and their families.
Give us a quick sense of how wellness can apply in the kitchen and the bathroom.
Yeah, so we think about the kitchen. It's where it's usually the heartbeat of the house, right? I know in my house, probably in many people's homes, that's where we huddle. It's where we huddle at the end of the day. It's where we huddle certainly on the holidays. But when we're cooking and what have you, there are a lot of contaminants that are being thrown off, whether it's cooking grease and smoke or just off-gassing from the burners or what have you. Those are contaminants that we're subjecting ourselves to. And those are things that we want to clean and remediate. Those are contaminants that can actually permeate throughout the house. We've got air quality sensors as an example to tie this back to practical application. We've got air quality sensors that we install in the home, and they're monitoring the indoor air quality in different zones of the house in real time. If we sense a problem, we're going to trigger algorithms to passively boost the air purification system, remove those contaminants, bring them down to healthier levels again. So there's a lot of different ways that we want to remediate what's going on in different rooms in the home to always maintain that healthy environment, right? We're not looking for neutral at Delos. At Delos, we're really looking for improved or optimized indoor environment so that we can bring forward a healthier outcome for people.
I'm going to ask Chris this question too, but I want to ask you real quick. What advice would you have for a designer on how they broach the subject with a customer when they're talking about wellness? How do you initiate that conversation? Tony?
Oh, so for me first, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go for you first, then I'll go to Chris.
Okay, it starts as early as possible. You know, when we're working with our customers, we're either working with an architect, with a builder or developer directly, or with an AV installer. And there's some great research that's been published. You'll see here that a recent study from Hanley Wood has said that 75% of people believe housing plays a key role in their health and well-being. So people know that the home can be helpful or harmful to their and their families. I think the disconnect has been largely, well, what do I do about it, right? It's not enough to know that it's a problem. Everybody wants the answer, right? How do I help mitigate those problems? And this is what Delos and our residential platform has been focusing on exclusively, is bringing forward those actions and those intentions and bringing those answers to the marketplace. 76% of people believe their homes are actually harming their health and well-being. So again, it ties back into the profound statistics here. We need to provide the answers, right? What I would say is this study was from, I think, 2018. And what I would say is now, a year into the pandemic, these statistics, if we were to have Hanley Wood redo this test, I would imagine that the statistics would be much, much higher. I think everyone is now acutely aware of the dangers of air contamination, of surface contamination, right? And things of that nature. So what used to be a nice to have, Delos is now seeing from our broad cross-section of customers as a must have. So we're hearing customers saying, hey, we're going to buy a house, or we're going to build a house, or we're going to refurbish our house. What can we put inside of our homes to make sure that our home is going to take care of ourselves and our families? We've heard about home wellness. We've heard about bringing wellness into the home. We recognize it's not just about a gym or a yoga mat somewhere off in a spare room or in a basement or a corner of the home. What are the intentions that we can design into the home that are going to have a more tangible outcome on our health and our well-being for ourselves, our families? It's also important to note, Jason, extended families are coming together more and more and more. Kids are coming back home after college. Maybe they went out into the workforce. They had their own apartments. There's been a lot of household consolidation, a lot of 3-generation households, right? Parents are coming and staying with their kids. Their kids or the grandkids are now in the same household, right? So you have younger children, middle-aged parents, and then perhaps even grandparents all living under the same roof. So there's a number of different concerns that can be going on in that expanded household. And these are the types of things that are on the minds of the homeowners, regardless of socioeconomic class, right? It really does not matter. It transcends all touch points and price points.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think a lot of these trends are definitely being accelerated by the pandemic. Unfortunately, maybe in the long term, this is a good thing because we're all going to be healthier and happier. All right, let's get a rubber meets the road perspective from Chris, who's out there as an architect talking to clients on a daily basis. Where should a designer start when he's going to have that conversation with a customer about incorporating technology solutions and wellness solutions?
Sure. Thank you, Jason. I think my answer is going to touch a little bit on Anthony's last question, and his answer is that as early as possible. As architects and as designers, we're usually at the inception of a project, and we want to look at what are our solutions, not just what we're going to put in the home, but how do we design the home to have wellness and to accept all this technology, and what are the broader meanings, the broader concepts around that wellness. Like it could be as simple as how do we site the project, how do we orient it to maximize natural daylighting, how do we orient some of the fenestration in the windows to capture prevailing breezes. It's a much broader understanding of how those concepts kind of come to reality that you really should be discussing with your clients and thinking about from a project's inception. So it's definitely important stuff.
And you mentioned it kind of as a whole house positioning of the home and fenestration and such. Is there a room by room element to this conversation too, or is it always kind of a whole house perspective?
No, there's definitely, granular components as you get into each room. We kind of take the lifestyle and how, the client's going to kind of live in the home and try to maximize that for, their, I say like 95% of their use is going to be in the kitchen, the great room, sort of the heart of the home, the core. You want to make sure that stuff functions really well, that it's got tons of natural light, lots of natural ventilation. And then we kind of spin off the other things that are important. Is there going to be a gym? Do we have room to put like a wellness room or a place to exercise? Can we get access to natural light there? Are we going to be working from home? Obviously, these are things that are happening more and more during the pandemic, and they're extremely critical. And sometimes you might not have space to do that. This is a great slide here of a beautiful project that's on a couple acres, but we're not always that fortunate. So we also look at ambiguous spaces, like how do we start combining some of these areas and some of these aspects of what you need to do in your home to stay healthy, even though it's not as large, And oftentimes we're creating multiple use spaces, an office that can double as a guest bedroom, or a gym that can double as an office, or we can creatively put a Peloton somewhere, to get some of that, but. Yeah, it's a constant struggle, in terms of making sure that everything around the client's sort of core needs are elevated and thought about.
What is your advice on the level of depth of knowledge that a designer needs to have about these technology solutions? I mean, they're not, should they become experts in the category? Do they just need to know a little bit enough to be dangerous like me? Or do they need to have a little bit more knowledge and have a good partner in place? What's that level they need to get to?
Yeah, I think realistically, it's impossible for anybody to know everything about everything, right? And I think a designer at a certain point has to play that role. You sort of have to know a little bit about everything and understand the end goal better than anybody. But it's about knowing enough to be dangerous. You know, for sure, you gotta be able to talk about the benefits of what it is. You have to have kind of an understanding enough to have a conversation with your client and the builder, you know, to espouse the benefits. You got to be able to talk about you know, how you're going to meet some of those needs, because a lot of times people are going to react to those needs even if they're not asking for it. You know, like some of Tony's slides there were really great. You know, but I think if people aren't even being asked about it, they're sort of wanting it. So I think finding good partners is definitely part of the equation too. Integrators, AV consultants, you know, it's critical to be able to find good partners who can kind of come in and really explain it and get down to the nuts and bolts. How much is it going to cost? It's usually the first question the client's going to have. You know, it's like this is good. This is what your house is going to do. This is all the benefits. This is great. I love it, but like, how much is it going to cost? You know.
Yeah, you just kind of subverted my next question, which was the hardest question I was going to ask on the whole panel, which, you know, how much should they be budgeting for this sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer, honestly. I mean, technology definitely permeates a lot of the house, you know, and if you try to sort of break it off, it really gets difficult to say like, oh, this is how much extra you're going to spend to have a better wellness, you know, functioning home versus like, this is the sort of what you need to spend to do the basics. But I would say that anywhere between 5%, 10% of construction budget is kind of, you know, what we see. The things that designers usually get, you know, brought at them first is like, what's it going to look like? What are the aesthetics? Like, obviously, that's kind of why they're there. That's why they're on board. That's what they're trying to do, make sure things are going to look beautiful. So a lot of the things like the lighting becomes important. Like, what are the, you know, cans? Are we going to get the more expensive cans? The you know, trimless packages and things are going to look great. But you can also say, well, you know, if you buy these, you can, you know, we can use lighting control, which is important throughout the house. That can save you energy. It can be used for some of this wellness stuff. So like, you're getting the benefits of this, but you know, the clients may be understanding that, well, okay, I need to kind of get to this level even for it to look good, you know. So that's sometimes more important to them. So yeah, there's lots of little towers. It's kind of hard to, you know, line them up and see where they all kind of come into play. But I think it's definitely good to talk with like, hey, some of these things you're going to want to do regardless of the technology or the benefits that you're going to get out of it. And anything on top of that is maybe going to be, you know, not too significant.
Yeah, and then that 5% to 10%, I think that's great advice. And it is tough because there's a network basic infrastructure element to the technology that has to be in place. It's kind of like the engine to the car. You have a great BMW, but if you don't have an engine, then you know it doesn't help to have to push it up and down the street. So right. You have to have that infrastructure portion in place as part of the budget. And then, as you said, the amenity portion can vary wildly because you can have speakers that are very expensive, and you can have speakers loudspeakers, I should say, that aren't as expensive. So it's a tough one. And let me ask you, that 5 to 10%, how has that changed over the past, let's say, decade? Was that number half or a third of what you see today being devoted to technology?
I think it's definitely gone up. You know, I think the necessity for it's gone up, and you know, sort of the old school thought behind it was like, hey, let's get the house wired for whatever we want to do, right? That's kind of that infrastructure, the sort of foundation we talked talking about. Like that cost is actually pretty nominal when you compare it to the overall build, construction costs. And then a lot of times, the builders would say like, okay, here's your, bucket that you get to spend on AV. Like, here's your budget. And then we're not going to really include that as a part of the overall construction cost, because the theory was you could just pack it up and take it with you, right? Like, I'll take my stereo and the old DVD player and all that stuff. I can take it to my new house, but that's not really the case anymore. Like everything's connected. And Daryl's going to talk about the appliances soon. It's just you got to make sure that you've got the right infrastructure, but then there's going to be things that are sort of the floor is risen, so to speak. Like, there's going to be things that you're just not going to want to go below.
Yeah, it's the VHS player at my house, by the way. It's going to be packed. All right, let's turn to Daryl. And technology is not just about home theaters and great rooms and those. It is really becoming, as Tony mentioned, really important in the kitchen and even the bathroom too. So it's really picking up momentum. So Daryl, when we talk about smart appliances, we throw out this term, smart appliances. What exactly is a smart appliance, and how has that evolved over the past 5 years?
That's a great question. Great question, Jason. We in smart appliances, and these are products, we have over 400 smart appliance models in our portfolio. And that number increases every day. Now, these are the types of products that can range the full gamut, the full spectrum, from countertop type products, coffee makers or espresso machines, all the way to traditional major appliances, such as home laundry or cooking products or food storage. And smart appliances, in our mind, we at GE, we consider smart appliances to be these types of products that are able to connect, into a connected environment and bring forth additional value to that consumer or owner. And that's really the key part for appliance to be smart, right? And we think that we're currently in what we like to refer to as the second digital revolution around appliances. If you think about it traditionally, the first is appliances were purchased in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, past decades, to perform a certain purpose. The mission was for those products to perform that purpose for decades, and that was their goal, right? And an interesting thing started to occur 5 to 10 years ago. We would start to see some screens. We'd start to see more monitors, more rich content. We'd start to see a little bit more interaction with appliances starting to proliferate in the kitchen. What we are experiencing now is where we're really starting to unleash the capability, really starting to open up the possibilities for products to really bring forth value to owners and help them to sort of meet their goals. And it's very interesting what Chris and Anthony were mentioning earlier. Our owners have needs, and they have needs today, but we like to open up that possibility to have smart appliances evolve with that owner as their needs may change over time, as their interests may move from one area to another, as they may become more interested in things like food as medicine or plant-based diet or reducing food waste or any of those areas, and how the appliances can help them meet their goals.
It's interesting you mentioned the decades-long appliance, the 30-year appliance, as they used to call the refrigerator. And you could really make the case that people look at technology today and think it has built-in obsolescence. Gee, if I buy something today, in a couple of years, it's going to be outdated and I'm going to have to replace it. But now with the smart, you could actually flip that coin. And because these appliances are constantly needing to be updated via software, and they're connected, they're network connected, it actually doesn't lessen the obsolescence, but it actually could extend it, correct?
That is exactly right, Jason. The way that the way these products are designed is that they can continue to be improved, right? We have the capabilities and technologies now to update these products through the air wirelessly, so that those products take on enhanced feature sets, enhanced capabilities. They allow individuals to customize those products so that they're more directed towards their interests and their family needs at that time in a home environment, and that they're able to continue to provide even more value over time. So it really gives you an opportunity to Chris's point earlier, when you sort of, that base case, you just want to wire the house for things that may come along in the future. With these smart appliances, you're able to future-proof your operation and sort of eliminate that obsolescence because you're able to upgrade that product over the air to really perform new functions, new capabilities, and provide new value to you later throughout your life.
Talk specifically about how important it is for a smart appliance to have an open API. You might want to explain what an open API is, and then talk about the flexibility that brings.
Right. Now, API simply means application program interface. And what that is the portal. And we use an open API. Our architecture is built so that we're able to develop those partnerships with third-party providers, such as we have partnerships with Amazon, Google, Sonos, with these other entities in the space, smart speakers, home integrators, where those products are able we're able to unleash the creativity, right? From individuals to absolutely develop applications, use case scenarios, and work tasks to make that homeowner's experience more fruitful, right? One of the things that we look for and we try to lean into is we look for trending and to try to understand the interests of individuals, right? And where their interests may be evolving to, right? And one that Anthony hit on a lot was wellness, right? We introduced a concept kitchen earlier this year that we call homegrown. We've seen the trends where individuals tend to have a lot of interest, and there's a lot of growing interest in farm to table, so that people have a more sense of locally grown product, produce and things that may be healthier for them, better for their communities. And our homegrown kitchen sort of takes that concept even further. And so what if you could imagine in a scenario where an individual was able to actually produce their vegetables and produce on their countertops, and their appliances help to facilitate them to be able to give a chain of custody of zero in terms of products being developed, produce being grown, fruits and things being grown for their consumption, harvested at the peak freshness through the use of artificial intelligence and understanding technologies such as hydroponics, aeroponics, so that we can use those growing cycles and allow the appliances to help facilitate that. Because ultimately, to Anthony's earlier point, not only is our environment very interesting and critical to our health, but so is the food that we consume. Food absolutely is medicine and can be a very big factor in terms of our overall health outcomes.
So what you're saying is with GE profile smart appliances, we will never have the dreaded George Carlin meat cake in the back of the refrigerator that nobody knows if it's meat or if it's cake anymore, right? Because
we're going to do our best to eliminate that whole phrase of meat cake.
Yeah.
And absolutely.
Right.
And food waste actually is, just to hit that point, food waste is a significant problem in our society, right? And it's a significant form of waste, right? And very expensive. Individuals can spend a lot of money on food and produce that really serves no value to that owner. If we're using a little bit of technology and providing people with options to make it easy for them to remember that meat is in the back of the refrigerator before it becomes cake, and they can actually integrate that into their menus and bring that forward so that they're able to actually consume it, right, and get the value from their hard-earned dollar.
Yeah. We touched on this earlier, but give us some specifics of how COVID-19 has accelerated smart appliances.
Yeah. Look, the pandemic has been a significant stressor in our society, right? And situations like that can have an effect to accelerate some trends and some characteristics that are ongoing in our society as a whole. The utilization of home appliances, of products, all things around the home increased dramatically over time. And I think individuals are actually starting to realize, some of the capabilities that they may not have fully leveraged in their products in the past, because now they're so much more dependent upon them. They're spending so much more time around them, right? And they're actually starting to enjoy. We've seen that sort of uptick. I think it's been widely reported, the uptake in bread making and the uptick in all of these other sorts of home craft type activities. And if your products, for example, in this case with our smart appliances, if you were more interested in producing, bread or candying foods or canning or any other thing, being able to have access to those recipes and having your products facilitate you becoming your own home celebrity chef as you're experimenting in your kitchen, which is the hub of the home. We agree with that, Chris. Basically, that kitchen is the hub. If your appliances are able to more facilitate your excellence in that room, the better. And that's going to lead to a more satisfying experience for that individual.
All right, fantastic. I want to remind everybody who is listening to send in your questions so we can get to those. And we are getting to the point where we're going to be taking those questions and scanning through those. But Chris, let me turn back to you real quick. You talked about those partners. You've got builders, you got architects, you got designers, you got general contractors, you got the integrator. Who should be having, what does that discussion look like with the customer? Who takes the lead? Is there really no set answer to that question? But how does that work with all the different trades together?
Sure. I think, quite simply, anybody can take the lead on starting the conversation, with the client, with the customer. I think that it should always include the contractor, because like I said, the idea of cost is always going to come up. I think by the time a project's started or even at its inception, there's always a sort of a budget in mind, and that's going to need to be a part of it. Hopefully there's an architect on board as well, and they can help facilitate that conversation. But I think really anybody can bring it up, which is I think a good takeaway for all the designers listening today. Finding a good partner is a great idea. A lot of them will help to educate you as well too. Obviously they're trying to push their services and get more exposure, and we like to think of ourselves over here at Brand Architects as pretty tech savvy, but we still regularly invite these guys in to give us lunch and learns, or they're doing things virtually for us too. It's just like technology, as we all know, continues to change and evolve at a very quick pace. So nobody can be on top of it. But finding good partners and people you can lean on is critical.
Tony, you mentioned earlier the WELL certification, the WELL standard. What should a designer do? How can they find out more about that? Should they become certified? What should they do?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. Wellcertified.com is our website. It's very, very, very partner friendly. We have a WELL AP program where you can take a course, become accredited to be a wellness professional. That gives you the ability to act as a consultant and guide your customers to be able to build or reconstruct their buildings and facilities in a way that has health and now safety more and more top of mind. We also have a new program that was born out of the pandemic, actually, at the International Well Building Institute, and that's called the Well Health Safety Rating. Some of you may have seen these commercials that are running on over 30 television stations right now, featuring Jennifer Lopez and Lady Gaga and Michael B. Jordan, Robert De Niro, Wolfgang Puck, Deepak Chopra, et cetera. And this is a national awareness campaign that we launched to help our building facility owners and operators get support around getting third-party validation for their health and safety protocols, right? So we've created this program to really help prepare buildings for the return of its occupants, whether it's an employee or a retail storefront or a mall or a stadium or a music venue, whatever the case may be. So there's a number of different programs and a number of different ways that designers can get involved. And I encourage you to go to wellcertified.com or wellhealthsafety.com for more information specifically.
Okay. All right. Let me start scanning through some of the questions here. Daryl, let me throw this one at you first. In terms of connected appliances, what are you most excited about? Integrations across the appliance ecosystem, computer vision, something else?
Yeah, let me tell you exactly. I'm most excited, and where I see the most potential is really integrations across that entire ecosystem. The types of solutions that can be brought by using artificial intelligence by using information that is garnered from one particular appliance and applying it to another is absolutely unbound at this point. I think there's tremendous amounts of value, tremendous amounts of opportunity that can really be brought to improve people's lives. We haven't even discussed it, and we spent a lot of time on wellness, but as individuals begin to age, as the demographics and society change, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Jason, the utilization of smart technology by seniors is increasing greatly. And there's a significant opportunity to make seniors' lives better by having the appliances become a lot more senior friendly, using some of these integrated technologies so that they're able to live independently and live fuller lives even later into their lifespan.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, here's a good question for you. We've been talking, a lot in the context of new build, but how do you implement some of these technologies in existing homes, and which would you introduce first?
That was a good question. Well, every project's got a different level of scope, right? I think I would start with the most basic of technologies and knock holes in it. I would create more windows, get more natural light in there, knock down walls, get some indoor-outdoor flow going if you can. These are generally things that improve, wellness and just general enjoyability of the home, greatly. So beyond that, I would think, lighting is usually low-hanging fruit with existing structures. It's old, antiquated, outdated. It's, updating that. The infrastructure is probably already there, all the wiring. So I would kind of move on to that. But I can't stress enough the importance of just, starting with good bones. So even if you've got an existing structure, whatever you can do to kind of manipulate that, get more of that natural light, get some ventilation into the home.
Yeah, and
one of the things that we're seeing is a huge focus on improving air quality in the home. We don't create our own products per se, but we certainly do an extraordinary job at identifying leading technology across different disciplines. Air quality technology has advanced dramatically over the years, and there is technology that is deployable on a standalone basis or on a retrofit basis. So back to what can we put into an existing home if we're not completely knocking it down or building from scratch? There is cost-effective, easily implementable and scalable air quality air purification solutions that can be deployed on a room-by-room basis, or something that can be ducted in and done in a cost-effective way. So given, I think, the past year, I think we're seeing the primary focus on, let's start with air. If somebody had asked a question here, can it be done in phases from a budgeting and implementation perspective? So I want to kind of bridge those two thoughts. Yes, it can. It can be done on a room-by-room basis. I think Chris did a great job before of articulating it really depends on how a family uses that home. Let's focus on the heartbeat of the home. Maybe that's an open floor plan kitchen and family room, or master bedroom and kids rooms, or something to that effect. Focus on the rooms that are being utilized the most. Let's make them the most optimal for the occupants, and that can be done in a very fast and efficient and effective way. We've got a technology that we identified that we recommend and are deploying across the larger school systems in the country and residential customers across the country as well, that remediates particulates that are smaller than SARS-CoV-2, right? So that's the virus that causes COVID-19. So HEPA grade air is the traditional gold standard. It's known as hospital grade air, and it's very, very good technology. It does not remediate the particle size of the aerosolized droplets that have now been identified. The technology that we are supporting eliminates particle sizes down to 0.007 microns, which is much smaller than the droplet, the aerosolized droplet. So yes, you can do it on a case-by-case basis. Yes, you can do it room by room. Yes, you can do it on a very budget-friendly basis.
And just to break down that indoor air quality, that's the combination of that medical grade filtration system you just mentioned, but also some sort of a sniffer or a monitor that then gives the homeowner the feedback as to the status of the air quality, correct? That's kind of how that system looks like.
Absolutely. Look, there is no one size fits all approach, right? So we think about life in a good, better, best construct. And I think that's what some of these questions are really guiding to. Like, do I have to do the entire thing? Do I have to buy an entire ecosystem, retrofit the entire home? No, absolutely not. If you're designing new construction, certainly more cost effective and efficient and better for you long term to work with Chris and architects like him to design that early in. And it can be done sometimes at a very low incremental cost because you're going to put lights. So instead of putting this light, do circadian light. You were going to do an air system, but now you can make a more informed decision. So you can do something that remediates pathogens and allergens to a much better degree than maybe you were thinking about before. It's that type of thing that when designed in early can have a massive impact without too much impact on the budget.
Here's a good question, Anthony, that I'll stick with you on. And I don't know if you can answer this because it might maybe it's a medical oriented question, but it says, is there an issue with a home being too clean, and would removing all those contaminants inside the home affect our immunity outside the home?
Well, here's how we think about that. You know, statistically, indoor air quality can be 2 to 5 times worse than outdoor air quality. Think about that. That's a profound statement. And let's give a practical example of how that happens. It's a spring day, you open the air, you want to get fresh air in the home, and that's great, we all do it. But I suffer from allergies. I open the windows, I start sneezing and coughing, I close the windows, and if I'm not cleaning that air, all I've done is trapped those pollens or allergens, and I'm causing a more long duration of my suffering as opposed to doing what I thought I was doing, which would have been a positive thing, close the doors and windows and I should start feeling better. So, you know, I think it's really to understand how and why we're removing contaminants and allergens and such to create an environment where we can live more comfortably and have a healthier outcome. I point to sleep all the time, and we point to it a lot at Delos because we heal and recharge and recover while we sleep. It's the most important part of our day. And if we can create an optimal sleeping environment for occupants of a home, then we're helping people live a healthier and better life on a day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year basis. And that is our part of trying to make the world a better place.
All right, let me go around Robin on the panel here with the final question that came in. That's a good one. Is what product trends do you see integrating smart and wellness technologies? In other words, Chris, I'll start with you. What are some of the hotter trends you're seeing? You know, we've seen it during the pandemic. You know, theaters come back because listening and viewing time went way up. We saw outdoor entertainment spaces grow. We saw obviously network and home office spaces go through the roof from work from home and learn from home situations. What is the hottest for you right now? What do you see coming down the pike?
Sure. I think probably all the obvious ones from the pandemic, you know, they kind of come at you bundled up. Home office, gym space, you know, maximizing indoor-outdoor flow, really. You know, people are doing their best to still gather, be with family, do it safely outdoors where they can. Hopefully you live in a climate that allows you to do that better in the winter than others. But, you know, it's really focused on that. We're trying to squeeze much more out of our homes than we ever have before. Like you said earlier, we don't just come home from work anymore and, you know, crash out. It has to support as much of what we have to do now between working, trying to be well, to be able to exercise and you know, live a healthy lifestyle, be able to cook more from home and have all the benefits there. And to tie it back to technology, I think the lighting is definitely something that we're trying to bone up on. You know, I'm really intrigued by all the circadian rhythm stuff, and I understand the science behind it. The blue light in the morning to kind of help wake you up and energize you, get you going, and then the warmer, softer light at the end of the day to help you, you know, get ready for sleep and to restore. And that technology is there. You know, the LED lights are there, and it's not that high of a bar to reach.
Yeah, and with the revolution that's taken place with low voltage lighting, it's that much more accessible and doable. All right, Daryl, same question to you. What do you see as the next wave of products coming down the pike?
Yeah, I look at it a little differently in that I think what we're seeing is that there's a big interest and an unmet demand around products that are customizable and can curate an experience for that specific individual. I think what people have started to experience is that their interests change. And if this pandemic's taught us anything, your opinions and interests can change on a dime and have a lot of significant modifications there. So having products that I think are able to grow with the individual, to actually adapt to their current interests and needs and desires is where you can unlock the true magic of providing that value to a client, customer, or owner. And having products that can evolve, can move, can somehow adapt to provide that value, I think that's the golden key.
Yep. All right, Anthony, let me circle back with you. Same question. You mentioned indoor air quality. You talked about water quality management. Talked about your circadian rhythm. I know there's things like scent diffusion and aromatherapy and those sorts of wellness elements coming down the pike. Where do you see what's the next wave of wellness?
Look, it is. I'm going to pick up on a couple of the keywords that Daryl mentioned. It really is around giving each individual the ability to live their best life possible, right? Technology can bring that forward. Specifically, sensor-based technology is accelerating. I know I referenced it before, but sensor-based technology across lots of different disciplines can provide incredible insights to companies that use those insights to curate and create good experiences on an individual basis. How Daryl lives his life is different than Jason, different than Chris, different than Tony. So it's common technology that is about learning the individual aspects of who's living in a house or how they're living in a house, or how does Daryl benefit from a wearable that talks to the technology in his home and then goes with him throughout the day so that it's a holistic experience for him specifically. And I think we're going to see more and more of this type of technology being interoperable and coming together to the benefit of the individual. Privacy will continue to be a concern. Somebody asked the question and I did want to address it. Good stewards of privacy and data, they anonymize the data. We do not care so much about the person at all. The individual information that is being utilized is what is the temperature in a home? What's the particulate matter of a room? What's happening, how many hours before bed so we can help someone go to sleep easier or wake up better. That's the type of data that we're ingesting and running through our algorithms to inform experiences that help people live better, healthier lives on a day-to-day basis. And we'll see that continue to expand at a rapid pace. And I think this pandemic has brought forward an extraordinary push towards innovation. A lot of what we're talking about right now is because we're still in a pandemic, it's an acute phase conversation. But I think we would all agree that a lot of what is being implemented and brought into the market, it's going to just be part of the fabric of our life going forward. The pandemic will hopefully recede and we'll start to get back to a post-pandemic world. But I think we can't unhear or unlearn the things we've learned over the past year. Those are just going to become best practices in our life. In a year from now, when we're back together again, we'll be like, okay, well, what did we carry forward? What's not going away or what has not gone away? Those will be interesting conversations as well.
Yeah, we're going to learn a lot of lessons. 10 seconds, Tony, could you please repeat the URLs that you were mentioning earlier for Delos, the well certification, et cetera, and then we're up against the time here.
Yes, Delos is delos.com. The Well Health Safety Rating Program specifically is wellhealthsafety.com. And then the International Well Building Institute is wellcertified.com.
All right, fantastic. Daryl, Brandon, Chris, I'm sorry, not Brandon, Chris, and Tony, thank you so much for today. Fantastic information. I want to thank GE Profile again for sponsoring today's session. Reminder to everybody, the Connected Living Pavilion will have deeper dives, and there are also some networking lounges and things where they're going to be talking about these sorts of subjects that we addressed today. So please visit that pavilion when you can, and thank you for joining us today.
Bye, guys. Good to be with you.
Thank you, Jason.